Hello there, kia ora. I was trying to work out which piece of news to do a video on today, since I really am spoilt for choice, like I have been for the last number of months since this government was elected. I had stories to choose from like Ngāpuhi leaders walking out in protest from a meeting with the Prime Minister over his actions towards Maori, or Hut Hospital doctors having to make beds and clean sinks and answer phones due to staff shortages that the government tells us totally aren't an issue, or that the Ministry of Education got told the government that its plans for splitting up the Polytech merger was a really bad idea, that the massive cuts to social services, including support structures in place for oranga tamariki, the very definition of frontline services that we were told weren't going to be cut to pay for those tax cuts for landlords and the wealthy, or more hospitals struggling to staff overnight emergency rooms, Todd McClay making comments deriding Ricardo Menendez March's birthplace, the $216 million in tax money that was put aside for tobacco companies, the response to the removal of the Maori wards, and all the very, very many groups and individuals calling it out for its blatant racism, but as well a whole bunch of really right-wing councillors and local body authorities arguing that it's a good thing, actually, because it means a return to one person, one vote, which has never been something that is actually in place for Maori wards, but is in place for people who own multiple properties in multiple areas, and that doesn't seem to be something that they're arguing against. Then there was the stalling of the national rollout for bowel cancer screening programs, the cutting of funding and staff for a Kāinga Ora Māori housing team, the continued outcry around the removal of Section 7AA from the Oranga Tamariki Act, and how that's been handled by the MP in charge. There's the claims of racial harassment from the party doing everything it can to belittle Māori and worsen their outcomes across every measurable metric. There's ACT's continued meltdown with the Speaker over pins and things that they were told not to wear. There was Shane Jones putting out a weird video about downsizing the Waitangi Tribunal before getting rid of it completely. There was a record drop in housing consents to the lowest level in 5 years. There was Te Whatu Ora having to apologise to nurses that they offered positions to and then rescinded. Oh, and the Minister of Health saying if it costs money, they can't do it. Like our health system has to MacGyver its way into fixing itself. Oh, there was the first intake of youth offenders at the boot camp, days after that report into state abuse saying that boot camps are a major driver for the reason for the report. Oh, and tax cuts were rolled out where 130,000 people got nothing and 8,000 people were worse off. But the Prime Minister made a funny TikTok about it where he gets splashed, so yay. And the Herald would love you to know that this is actually a good thing. Oh, then there's the fact that Health NZ dropped the controversial ethnicity factor in the waiting list allocations. I call it controversial mostly because some angry racists said it was bad without seeing that it was actually one of about a dozen factors that had an incredibly small impact on list allocation, but had better outcomes for Maori and Pacifica people. But all of that was actually knocked out when our Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister decided he hadn't been getting enough angry headlines lately, and David Seymour had. So he tweeted about a women's boxing match at the Olympics to the screeches of his new Cooker voting base. Maybe he's hoping to pick up a few of those New Zealand loyal voters after Liz Gunn shut down her party without telling her followers, and then bunked off with thousands of dollars worth of donations for a really, really deeply needed retreat. He jumped on the culture war frenzy, claiming a trans woman had an unfair advantage in a match that lasted 46 seconds. Despite the fact that the athletes were both born female and have always identified as female, despite the fact one of them being misgendered by the rabid crowds comes from one of the most regressive countries in the world for LGBT rights, and they would never allow a trans athlete to represent them, and that the other athlete was really clear in that her reason for quitting the match was about the shock of the impact and a punch to the face and not a protest. Our Deputy Prime Minister decided to add to the voices of angry, wrong, nasty, pathetic individuals getting their facts wrong and being so transphobic they start attacking a biological woman because she doesn't conform to their idea of what a woman should look like. And now he's trying to make it about the New Zealand First bathroom police policy. But on top of that, he represents Aotearoa New Zealand on the international stage. He's our Foreign Affairs Minister. And comments like this make us as a country look bad. Well, to everyone except the worst people on the internet. And while I know most of us know that they're horrible, this is who our government panders to now. It emboldens the racists, the TERFs, the homophobes, the racists again, and landlords. All so this chaotic coalition can whine that they're not being treated nicely while they dismantle the country around us.